Well, hi guys, it's that time. It's our Bible teaching snippet of the day. Now, I'm going to keep it kind of light today and probably short, but I do want to get on and just do a real quick teaching and just share some information. Now, something I want to make sure that you understand. When I teach some things and I just tell you that there's things outside of the Bible that I'm sharing with you, I'm not telling you that that's specifically what I believe or that what you should believe. I'm just giving you information that could be interesting to study, okay? There are some things outside of the Bible that I do believe, and some things that's written outside of the Bible that I do not believe. So just let me lay that down real quick. So today, where I'm at, I'm in John chapter 19, and I'm just going to read from where I picked up yesterday. I left off on verse 22. I'm just going to, if it's okay, I'll just read 23 through 27. Then I just want to talk about some stuff. So here we go. And then the soldiers, when they had crucified Jesus, took his garments and made 4 parts, to every soldier a part, and also his coat. And his coat was without seam, woven from the top throughout. They said, therefore, among themselves, let us not rent it or tear it, but cast lots for it, whose it shall be, that the scripture might be fulfilled, which saith, they parted my raiment among them, and for my my vesture, they did cast lots. These things, therefore, the soldiers did. Verse 25, now there stood by the cross of Jesus his mother and his mother's sister, Miriam, and the wife of Cleopas and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus therefore saw his mother and the disciple standing, whom he loved, he said unto his mother, Mother, behold thy son. And then saith he to the disciple, Behold thy mother. And from that hour the disciple took her unto his own home. Let's go back up to 23. I wanted to just talk about this. These Roman soldiers that would be casting the lots for Jesus' clothing, and then they did not tear or do any damage to this one piece of clothing. This was a very, very expensive garment that priest wore. I mean, it was of the finest linen at the time, and Jesus wore that, which, by the way, would kind of indicate that Jesus wasn't quite as poor as some people believe he might have been. I don't believe Jesus was poor, but I'll keep moving on that. There's some studies out there that would indicate that. But anyway, I wanted to talk about the fact that the soldiers, what they would do is they would take their helmets, and each one of them would have a rock about the same size, and each one of them would know their own rock, either with a distinct marking on it or whatever, and they would put it in the helmet and start swirling it, and the rock that stayed in the helmet and didn't come out last, they would get the garment, is how they would cast their little lots. So, say there's 4 soldiers, and all 3 of the other rocks would get swirled out, and the one that stayed in would be the winner. So, the next thing I want to talk about, though, here, the soldiers, the 4 that were casting the lots and was dividing his garments, these soldiers were trained in how to cause the most excruciating pain to a man when they were driving the nails into their hands. I made a statement earlier about it would hit the median nerve, and when they would put them on the cross, just when a person would move to breathe, it would send hot, like irons, going up through all of their nerves throughout their whole body. Just so they had to decide if they would struggle to breathe to get air in the lungs, or if they would want that shock of pain to go that went all the way down their spine throughout all of their nervous system. But let me go down before I close today, because I really want to talk about John, the beloved disciple, and when Jesus looks at him and says, woman, well, to Mary, and says, woman, this is your son. And then he looks at John, the writer of this gospel, and says, this is your mother. Let me tell you something. This is proof that Jesus was the oldest son, because they would decide who would take care of their mother? The oldest son would. Now, history, Jewish tradition, history, proves that Mary, Jesus' mother, stayed with John the rest of her life. They believe that Mary lived to be around the age of 60. The honest truth, guys, people don't even know. They don't know. Mary has two graves. She has a grave in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which is basically where they believe that Jesus was crucified and buried, the Holy Sepulchre Church. I've been in it a couple of times. I'd like to do a study on that with you one time because it's a very interesting place in Jerusalem. But they have a tomb for Mary there. And then there's a tomb for Mary in Ephesus. Now, John died in Ephesus, and so did Mary. I don't know where her body is, but I'm just telling you that she lived with John from the moment that Jesus ascended into heaven. John took her on as his own mother, and she lived there in Ephesus, not in the city, but just right outside the city in a little house, out kind of away from everybody. And when she died, she was in Ephesus, and there's a grave next to the Gospel of John, the disciple or the apostle John. There's a grave there in Ephesus, and beside it is a grave for Mary. So both of them are buried side by side. Now, John lived over into his late 90s, and he was so old when he wrote 3 John, the last letter, that they literally had to pick him up and carry him back and forth to the church of Ephesus because he had gotten so old and frail. So he lived a very, very long time. But I want you to think about the words that Jesus told him and what honor Jesus had to have for John and what respect Jesus had to have to give him his mother, and the respect that John would have to take Mary on and take care of her for the rest of her life. So guys, I hope that this has blessed you, and I will see you again right here on Facebook. Bye-bye.